Hi, I'm Noel Harris. I am the writer-director of Touch. I'm going to state right up top that Touch was inspired by and is about the human capacity to love and have love overcome everything. And that's what inspired the story, and especially within the family dynamic, that's what's got us as the world to where we are, and hopefully will keep us going as a species. Okay, I wanted to establish three things here at the start, and you will see it, and I've done it pictorially. One is that the character of Paul, played by Daryl Hopkins, lies on the floor, and these two characters are standing over him. It's symbolic of who has the power in this scene. They're hatching a plan to keep him working so as to earn them money. And, of course, that is symbolic for how those who live in poverty have it in society. They're looked down upon. This is the second thing, and he's spit upon. I mean, that's how people who live in poverty feel, that society does to him. And, of course, he defends himself a little bit. It goes to show he has some sense of himself. And here's the third thing I wanted to establish. A little girl who's well-dressed, has everything looking at him, and the mom turns her away. Don't look at him. That visually gives you an idea of what's going on here, and it really sets up the character of Paul. Now here, I wanted to establish a couple of things. The stress the mom is under. We won't know why. I always want to hold back information until it's necessary, and I wanted to establish the dynamic between mom and daughter. Kristen, a great actor, she's feigning a smile. She knows her daughter sees her under stress, and she loves her two children, and she just wants to protect them no matter what. Here I'm going to set up what happens later in the film, where she says, never say that to your brother. He'll always be there for you, and you be there for him. And that will come full circle later in the film when her brother is there for her. And once again, we'll see the love that Kristen's character has for her children. She wants to protect them. She wants to comfort them. She doesn't want them to hear this, but in their life, this is a daily occurrence for people who live in poverty. They're constantly under stress. You can see it in Kristen's face all the time. Even the two children here, they know what's on the go. This is another day for them. And at this point here, we've established what happened in the second-hand store of Paul's character. We've established the trailer. Now we're going to introduce new information into the story, which is a job offer. We know that she's in need of money, or she's going to get evicted, and now she gets a job offer. So this is the new information being introduced. You see how happy she is, and now it's time to get the babysitter. So Kristen's character here, she's going to phone, and this is where things start to spiral away from her. The first babysitter turns her down, and I'm always juxtaposing this with Emily, played by the awesome Georgia King. And she is kind of our view into what's going on here, and you'll see her in a minute get up and peek at her mom. So visually, I like doing that because it gives the audience a view into, she's our eyes looking into what's going on here. And there it is. There's the shot I'm talking about. And it's late at night here. The little, 6-7-year-old should be in bed, but she's got to deal with this stress of mom. And once again, Kristen's character here, you can see it in her face. And I'll talk about that a bit later, but I'll show you a bit later. Each of the characters here, the little boy, Kristen, Paul, and Georgia, people who live in poverty, from my research, have this life-worn, disconnected look in their face quite a bit, and you'll see it displayed in this film quite a bit. We work with the actors. We wanted to really get that, because that drives home visually. Just look at the stress on Kristen's face there, and you know that this girl, her head is down, and you know she's going through a tremendous amount of stress. This is my favorite scene in the whole film that Kristen did, and that's saying something, because everything she did was so good, but she has to phone who we don't know yet, but it is her brother, and she's been fighting with him, and like any human being, apologizing is very hard. So she dances around what she has to do here, and it was written that way. So she starts out with, she's got a job offer. She's going to get kicked out. She needs to be there in a half hour. And of course, if you're insulted like her brother was, all you need is an apology. And so she dances around the apology, but when she realizes what her brother needs, she finally comes through. And her voice was shaking. All the rehearsals we did, Kristen's voice held back a bit, but yet when the camera got turned on, she went to another level. And when I was behind the monitor, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So she really sold her character here. She helped you, the audience, buy into it. And once again, getting back to Georgia, she's our way of looking at what's on the go here. So she gets up from her place on the couch. And in this shot here, I chose not to show Paul. I just chose to show his hand, and you correlate to where he is by the owner of the place in the background. I forgot to mention, when Kristen hangs up the phone for the next 8 minutes and 7 seconds, there's no dialogue. It's a visual story, except for one line. Georgia has one line. Here you see a shot of her bed, which we'll come back to in a second. It's a sponge laid on the floor. It's not even a bed. We'll get another shot of it later on. See the sneaker? That's actually just a sponge. They live in poverty, and you have to drive that home. Glenn Barrett and I, the production designer, talked about it, and here Uncle Paul is driving through the neighborhood, and we see the teenagers fighting in the background. The guy pushing the cart, which drives home where they are. In the story, it was written a lot more was there, but we had to peel back. And so we just went with what we had. And there's another shot of Kristen on Georgia on the floor. And now new information is getting relayed to you, the audience. You don't know who this guy is. You don't know why she called him. Well, you know why she called him, but you don't know what his intentions are here. And then one of the things an audience has to do is worry. They like to worry and then have everything be okay in the end. And that was our goal here. So basically, what you're seeing is what you think is happening on the screen, but what is actually happening on the screen. It's like a dual story, so that when you look back on it, you'll see that this is something, everything that happens from here on in, though you worry, it's actually good stuff happening. Positive stuff. And she hears someone at her mom's envelope, so she looks out, and he knows he's being watched, and he knows who it is. So he looks over, and she knows she should be in bed, so she closes the door. And you hold back information from the viewing audience. You don't know what happened to the money. You think you stole it, and he's coming out. And once again, this is all told visually. I don't know how many of you audience members realize it, but there's been no dialogue now for quite some time. And here Daryl is just having his beer, and he's listening to all the fighting in the neighborhood. And he tosses the beer bottle. And you have to make your characters do what they do in their natural environment. And Daryl's character, Paul, he's been raised in a family of generational poverty, and that's what they do with their empties. I had to make him true to his character. And getting back here, this is the dualness I was telling you about earlier. The audience thinks one thing is happening, but Emily, and I named her after my godchild, Emily, basically what she's saying is, you're not going in there and scratching his back, you're coming out here and scratching mine. And I was hoping the audience would look back in the end, and there's a look I was telling you about, the disconnected look of people who live in poverty. That was Georgia's turn at it. And Paul here knows what he has to do. It's a routine they go through every time he comes over and babysits. She loves it. He's been doing it with her ever since she was a child. And it's something that comes from my own family. Back scratching within the Harris family has always been something that we do with our kids. And my older brothers and sisters growing up, it was something our mom and dad. And I just put it in this film as well. So once again, you get the dualness. I'm trying to make the audience worry, but when they look back later, they'll see that everything was actually okay here. But for dramatic purposes, for story purposes, it has to be what it is. And Georgia and Daryl and I, we rehearsed this quite a bit to get where we needed to be. We rehearsed. We used to go into Georgia's mom and dad's place quite a bit because you just can't. Where this scene is so tense, you just can't do that after one or two rehearsals. And we kept doing it until we felt we got it right. And I think we nailed it on shoot day. And once again here, the audience, I want the audience to worry. And you notice the cutaway here, when he put his hand down, we cut away to what he's doing. So the audience is really stressed. When we come back here, we'll see that she's just scratching his back. And the look on Emily's face here, or Georgia, you notice is not worried. It's more comfort. So that lets the audience off the hook a little bit. And here's that only line coming up. I saw what you did with the money. So, of course, the audience is believing I saw you steal the money, which we'll find out later. And I chose this angle here because I wanted to see George's eyes actually close, her beautiful eyes. And the audience realizes, hopefully by this time, that no, this is nothing untoward is happening. And it's comforting. And it really gets driven home at this point here the next morning when we'll see they're in the same position. His hand is under her shirt, and we'll see Benjamin, who's played by my nephew, Benjamin Harris, comes out. And this is what children who live in poverty have to do. They get up in the morning and get their own breakfast sometimes, and then mom comes home after the overnight shift. And I really like the look on Kristen and Daryl's face as they hug here. You get the look of the stress that both of them are under, and it comes back to pay off later on because Daryl's character Paul, we know what he's after doing, or he knows what he's after doing, but we don't know yet. And right here coming up, you'll see. I just love working with these two actors. You can see the stress and it's just right there. Look at Daryl. That's just fantastic acting, folks. And during the entire story, Daryl's character never once spoke. He portrays everything through his face, through his body, and there's way more audience investment when your characters do that and do it well. Daryl gets up here. I chose not to cut to a close-up of him there because this is the real payoff. When he looks back at his family, and they're all smiling. This is for the first time they're all smiling together in the film. He knows he's done something right, and you just see a little shade of a smile coming over him. And then he leaves. He's leaving to go. He knows he's done right, and he just don't want to say anything. He leaves to go face his fate. And this is the neighborhood they live in. Geographically, it's nowhere close to where the trailer was, but we shot it that way, and the great end song here by the Cinematic Orchestra out of England who partner with us. And this is where everything comes together. We still think that the money's stolen. We're going to find out if it is or not when she opens the cupboard here, and we see small delay, and that's actually the envelope that Uncle Paul had in the store. That's not the envelope that Kristen had. You can see the markings on it, which we did in post. We put the airmail markings, and it's all full of money. And that looks there means from Georgia. I saw him put that in there. And of course, we now know that, no, I don't have your money, Aaron. And with a smirk, Paul accepts his fate. He knows he has done the right thing. And that was Nigel Markham's idea, the director of photography. In the original script, he closed his eyes and accepted his fate. We shot that, and then Nigel wanted to do one take like that. And that's what partnerships are about, and it really worked. Mark O'Neill, my producer, it could not have been done without him. His fingerprints are all over this. He wanted to shoot anamorphic lenses. He wanted to go with a bleach bypass color palette, and we talked about it. I agreed. So getting back to how I opened this director's commentary, touches the story about love. It's about the human capacity to love and sacrifice for each other, which is what makes us what we are, human beings. I hope I achieved that. I hope that's what you took away from it. and I so hope you enjoyed. I'd just like to say thank you to the Picture Star Program, Telefilm Canada, and Newfoundland Labrador Film Development Corporation. All of our sponsors could not have done this without them, and I'll see you at the movies.